Welcome, Excellencies, dear colleagues, partners, and friends, to this, the final session of our National Directors meeting, the closing ceremony. We're going to have a slight change in the order of closing remarks, and I'm going to start by giving the floor to Assistant Secretary General for Rule of Law and Security Institutions, Alexandre Zouev, and that is because today happens to be the day of International Day of Peacekeepers, and it's a day full of events here at UNHQ, one of which will be starting shortly with the Secretary General and including our ASG. So he's going to speak first, and Alexandre Zouev, I give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Ilene, and I would like to address this important meeting. Excellencies, Madam Director General, dear colleagues, partners, and friends. First of all, I thank all of you on behalf of the United Nations Mine Action community for your participation in this international meeting of Mine Action national directors and UN advisors. The discussions that took place over the past 3 days demonstrated, as I was informed, a strong commitment to the future of mine action. They pulled ideas and recommendations from new technologies and partnerships to sustainable financing, and generated a vision of a sector that is sustainable, responsive, and is an enabler of progress across humanitarian development and peace and security efforts. The final plenary on racial equity in mine action was the first such discussion to take place in a forum like this one, which is a good sign of the sector's ability to adapt and evolve. I hope this conversation and all others during the NDM will lead to tangible follow-up and action. As you know, landmines and IEDs are some of the most devastating weapons of war used today. From Sri Lanka to Lebanon, from Colombia to Vietnam, this NDM showcased the determination of national directors with support from regional, international, and civil society partners to destroy all these deadly legacies of previous conflicts. There is no doubt that progress is being made, but in many places, such as Syria or Somalia, the threats still remain, and particularly when it comes to the use of IEDs. The United Nations, including through its peace operations, will continue our support and will lead efforts to create an environment clear of explosive threats. Mine action also makes it possible for our peace operations to carry out their mandates effectively, enabling patrols to protect civilians and ensuring peacekeepers return to their bases alive. This is also what the Secretary General's Action for Peacekeeping initiative seeks to achieve: strengthen and improve peacekeeping across the priority areas, such as performance, safety and security, protection, sustaining peace, and women, peace and security, of course. And mine action plays a vital role in all of the above-mentioned areas. We must not overlook the normative frameworks that underpin our work. The United Nations calls for full compliance with international human rights and humanitarian law. I would like to commend all of you for your achievements so far and wish you also every success in your important work in the future. And finally, my words of appreciation go to the government of Germany, who generously sponsored this meeting. The virtual NDM was a challenge, but I believe this challenge was very well met with all generous and strong support of the federal government. With that, I thank you all for your participation and look forward to welcoming you next year, hopefully already face-to-face. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very, very much, Alexandre. Thanks for joining us in this closing. I'm going to take the opportunity now just to add to your remarks by contributing some reflections on the past 3 days from the experience that I've had joining all of you in these discussions. Let me start just by thanking you the national directors in particular, the donors, of course, the UN entities, the Mine Action NGOs, the commercial operators, for bringing yet again this year and in this crazy virtual format, your knowledge and experience together to benefit the work that we're all committed to. This forum, the NDM-UN, for the past 24 years has provided this sort of a space in which the sector can come together with our experience and our different perspectives, discuss our lessons learned, set priorities for ongoing and future collaboration. And we saw how innovative we can be in coming up with such topics in our closing plenary. So we've kept our tradition alive, and of course we hope to go back to our old tradition next year of meeting in person, and really look forward to seeing all of you. Let me comment on some of the things I've heard in the plenary and side events, much of which gives cause for optimism. We've heard the themes of technology and innovation across many conversations. Learning across sectors has provided us with a number of opportunities. For example, we've heard how the use of ground-penetrating radar adapted from archaeology is enabling survey, even in snowy terrains. The use of change detection software can increase the efficiency and accuracy of imagery analysis to support battle damage assessments. And of course, this is particularly relevant in urban conflict settings, a phenomenon we are unfortunately increasingly witnessing and experiencing. Local actors overcame the pandemic restrictions with resourcefulness and determination. This is a topic that's come up in so many forums across the year. It just bears repeating and commending. I was particularly taken on day 2 with the complementarity of the plenaries that I listened to on community engagement and localization. I was struck by a phrase somebody said, building and sharing capacity, the constant emphasis on building and strengthening the other's capacity. I thought it was a very important perspective to say sharing, because of course, capacity building is a two-way or multi-way endeavor. In the discussion, this came up on community engagement. Meaningful participation, a phrase that came up often in relation to beneficiaries. I was struck by the emphasis many gave to the importance of listening to communities, empowering communities to protect themselves, asking better questions when engaging with communities to identify threats and local perceptions of threat, as showcased in the Afghanistan program. Clearly can improve effectiveness. We heard about the possible use of cash and vouchers to empower victims to exercise their choice of remedy or support. That was really interesting. The Yemen presentation in the side event on addressing IED threats further referenced the importance of working directly with communities, taking a human rights approach. And we learned from Viamo in Nigeria how we could use mobile technology to transcend illiteracy and engage large groups or remote communities, enlarging the toolbox for effective community engagement. That was a really interesting day. We heard many examples of how specialists across sectors are collaborating to kind of force multiply. Child protection just being one of those sectors we tend to work with quite a lot. A local child protection NGO engaging in risk education in South Sudan was just one example. We heard about progress made by national institutions in Colombia, Jordan, Afghanistan, Vietnam, many more, in developing and implementing their own national standards, policies, and programs. Of course, that's always the goal, and rewarding to hear. Our discussions also highlighted areas in need of urgent attention and action. We heard about the brutal effects of explosive weapons on people in Syria and the often overlooked need for mental health and psychosocial support for victims and their families. We listened to warnings about the evolving IED threat in places from Mali to Afghanistan and Yemen. In one of the side events, we actually benefited from a hands-on workshop on how to carry out environmental impact assessments. The panel on mine action financing delivers a sober message, because there are a growing number of countries facing explosive ordnance contamination, including some that are seeing resurgences in different types of contamination at a time of global decline in funding. And of course, we recognize that in any of the affected countries, there are multiple demands on funds beyond our sector. We have to focus on maximizing the existing resources, finding inventive solutions. And on that topic, we heard about social impact bonds, public-private partnerships, front-loading investments, no shortage of innovation there. Well, from the opening ceremony onwards, the meeting highlighted the physical, economic, and psychosocial needs of victims, the challenges we face in advancing women's participation in the sector. And I know that the plenary we just concluded on racial equity in mine action was the first of many conversations to come to pave the way for a concrete change. We heard from so many partners, from representatives of the national mine action institutions, of course, and donors, international and local civil society partners and entities. And together, you, the participants, reflected the theme of the conference, Perseverance, Partnership, and Progress. So let us ensure that we take away lessons and ideas from our experience together and integrate those into our daily work. With that, I would like to hand over to our host, who we simply can't thank enough, Director General Sibylle Katharina Sorg, who is the Director General for Crisis Prevention, Stabilisation, Peacebuilding, and Humanitarian Assistance in the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Sibylle, over to you.
Thank you very, very much. Excellencies, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. After 3 days of extensive discussions on mine action, it is my pleasure now to provide some final remarks on behalf of the federal government and to close this conference together with Assistant Secretary General Zouev and Acting Director Cohn, who both, I think, provided us with very relevant thoughts at the start of this final session. So for Germany, it was a great experience to co-host the 24th International Meeting of Mine Action National Directors and United Nations Advisors together with UNMAS. First of all, let me thank all the organizers, speakers, interpreters, and the technical staff who made this conference a success. Despite the challenges we all faced due to the pandemic, the organizers showed an impressive ability to adapt. And from what I have seen over the last 3 days, the conference has proven to be a truly inclusive event with more than 1,100 registrations from all over the world. With agenda items from the environmental impact of mine action to inclusion and equity in mine action, the conference now comes to an end. I think we can safely say the topics raised will form an integral part of future talks, may it be innovative financing through outcome financing mechanisms, the inclusion of formerly marginalized beneficiaries in national development plans, or technical innovation through drones and infrared in mine action. And 2021 will give us more opportunities for further meetings and discussions, and then hopefully in person. As my Minister of State, Niels Annen, mentioned in his opening remarks, Germany has been committed to mine action for almost 30 years. Since then, we have supported the cause together with partners, including international and non-governmental organizations, other donors, and most important, national authorities. And let me add at this point, it is not by accident that the official website of my department starts with a photo of minesweepers in action. This reflects the significance we attach to the topic. In our conference, we discussed the importance of international cooperation and assistance, but also the decisive topic of localization, and Irene mentioned this already. National ownership in mine-affected countries is key to further clearance and provides a path for affected communities. Earlier today, the opportunities and the impact of capacity development were an item on the agenda. National capacities pave the way for sustainable mine action. Once they are established and well working, coordination and effective clearance can take place. Especially local communities must be included in the effort. Affected groups often know where accidents happen. This already helps to find explosive ordnance. They know their own needs better than anyone else. Community engagement matters not only for mine action, but also for the transition to further areas of work, like development and stabilization, and to operationalize the triple nexus and to link mine action to the Sustainable Development Goals. As a sector, We need regular exchange and feedback mechanisms, as well as messages targeted to different groups in terms of gender, age, and disabilities, to make sure that adequate information and services reach the affected populations. We consider it crucial that the mine action sector is open to everybody. We need to include all affected persons. We all must fight racism and stand up for human rights worldwide. The NDM's last panel on racial equity in mine action proves that the mine action community deals not only with technical questions, but also seeks to deliver a concrete human rights-based approach. And I would like to emphasize the need for diversity and inclusion, which also shaped this NDM. It was good to see so many national directors in the meetings, to see the high number of female participants, and to see that panelists were chosen on a very diverse basis. Congratulations to UNMAS on this very balanced approach. Ladies and gentlemen, the NDM ends today, but we will continue our engagement for mine action already tomorrow with a meeting of the Mine Action Support Group. Together with the United Nations and observers like the GICHD, donors will, among other topics, look at cross-border mine action in Ecuador and Peru, and regional approaches to mine action in the Sahel. We will discuss developments and needs in the South Caucasus and in Afghanistan, and obviously reassess the impact of COVID on mine action. Let me close by saying how wonderful it was to witness the engagement of all participants during these days. It gives further rise to the hope that together we can achieve a world free of landmines. I thank you very much and happy to hand back the floor to Director Ilene Cohn.
Thank you very, very much, Director General. I just want to conclude by adding my voice to your thanks to many involved in orchestrating this event. Let me thank the UNMAS staff, the interns in Geneva and New York, and the field programs. Such a lot of work went into making this happen. And of course, that also included the UN partners in the Interagency Coordination Group. That included the Geneva International Center for Humanitarian Demining. And I have to thank, as you did, Director General, the interpreters. That was a really crucial role. I think they did a fantastic job. And last, but certainly not least, the national directors, the friends, the colleagues who all took their their roles as chair, panelist, or participant very seriously, did fantastic jobs preparing, fantastic jobs engaging. Thank you so much for your contributions. And I hope that everybody can join me just in the spirit of an applause, if not a real applause. And with that, I declare the 24th annual meeting closed. Thank you very, very much.